Oh, it's story time! It is fucking story time with Hatchet, and I am here chatting with Staxx.
Welcome to this episode of Chatting with Staxx. I'm your host, Bill Staxx, and today I got Hatchet.
I was like, well, why didn't you stab him? Like, you just cut your own arm? So I've seen a lot of children abused. I know a lot of them that died in foster care. And see, I was a lucky one. I had a really good caseworker. I had my caseworker since I was 18 months old all the way up till I was 18.
Oh, so
same caseworker.
Same caseworker stuck with you through everything almost.
Yep, I have an attachment disorder. Like, a lot of people don't know. Like, when I get attached to somebody, I'm attached to them for life. Like, a lot of people have the opposite disorder. They don't want to be around nobody. They detach from life. I call every one of my foster dad's dad. I call every one of my foster mom's mom, aunt, uncles, cousins. So if I was there long enough and they imprinted on me, or I imprinted on them, I will call them mom, dad, everything. Like the founder of our organization, I call Pops. I call his wife Mom. It's a family to me. So when something happens to your family, like a normal person can shut it off, I can't. It takes a long time for me to just walk away from, fighting. Really does.
Your life was chaotic before you went into the foster care system, right?
Yep. So my mom was.
You remember a lot of it?
Yeah.
You remember?
The one thing that I used to watch, because right across the street from the strip club, Cat Strip Club on Colfax, there's a apartment building. I used to watch my mom. She'd walk into there, and then I'd watch her come out, and I'd be staring out the window. And I watch her get in a car, and like 3 days later, my mom would come home. So I lived a chaotic childhood. My first fiance, if she wouldn't call me on time and stuff like that, I'd get paranoid that she would never come back. And I had to let all that stuff go. And I finally did when I was got with my third wife. I was really controlling over women because of that. My mom would leave. I couldn't get a hold of her. I went through Job Corps, and my fiance, she didn't call me. Man, that whole week was bad. Like, she had to call me on the dot right there on the spot, because it always felt like I was waiting for people. And it was the same thing with my mom.
Your mom really affected you growing up.
Yeah, she did. And then when I met her, I was just like, you're a piece of shit. Because she was trying, you can't buy me. You can't buy my love. And she would try to buy me everything in the world. I just throw it in the trash. I didn't give a fuck. I earned my own way. And that's why I told her.
When your family goes to prison, how long until you see them again?
When I was 6, that was the last time. I was already in and out of foster homes before that. She just had my baby brother because he was born in 91. Just had my baby brother. And that was the last time I saw her till I was 19, I believe. 19. I watched them take my mom. And then, of course, I was always taught never come outside, don't do anything. And I had a 6-month-old baby brother in a stroller. He was stuck in the stroller. And he almost died. And I'm trying to keep him quiet, not to make noise, because I didn't know who took my mom. I mean, I was just a little guy. So I ended up crawling out of our window, and our neighbors had their window open. All I was doing was going to go to their fridge, steal some food, and I crawled in, and a Rottweiler got a hold of me. And when that Rottweiler bit down on my arm, I yanked it back, and he gnawed me a little bit. He got me a couple times, and then he released. And the only way that they found me is the lady that lived there. That day when she got off work, she followed the blood trail, because it was just nothing but pure blood coming out of me. That's how I end up in foster care.
How long did they keep you with your brother?
So the first foster home they didn't keep me with because he came out and he needed a lot of attention, and he was actually really good in that foster home. And then I think it was about a year later they put him in the same foster home with me, and then they put me on Wednesday Child. And Wednesday Child is like a horse show for foster kids. And that's how I believe, and that's how I felt. So they put me on TV. That's how I met my foster parents. They saw me on TV and they're like, oh, we want to adopt these kids. Because Wednesday Child.
Dress you up? Do they like dress you up and put you in front of a camera?
Yep. They put you all in all new clothes and they put you in camera. And like being a foster kid and going through that, because I went through that twice. So everybody back in the day, you know, you only had a certain amount of channels. So everybody watched the news. So everybody knew that I was a foster kid. And then it caused so many fights because of it. Oh, you don't have a daddy. Whack, I'd hit somebody. You don't have a mommy. It was chaotic. So they dressed me up, put me in front of a camera, broadcast it all the way across Colorado. And that's how my foster parents saw me. And they try to adopt me. They end up adopting my little baby brother. And that's the reason why my foster dad and my foster mom were so adamant about always staying in my life to try and keep me and my brothers together. And I have two other brothers. And my foster dad, because he was a private investigator, he looked for my foster brothers and actually put me in the same school so that I was connected. Because my biological mother kept on finding us at school, I end up losing the ability to see my brother. My other two brothers, Daniel and Jake, one of them ended up dying of colon cancer before I was even able to re-meet him.
Damn, that sucks, man. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
So what would your mother come there and say? Like, would she
Oh, she kidnapped me one time. Like, she straight took me out of church.
Walk me through that.
So I was sitting there at church, and I know my mom. So I was sitting there at church, and I happened to turn my head on, I see my mom, and she's like, come on. And I went straight with her. We're gone. I mean, I was gone about a week, and they recaught her. And that's the last time that she went to prison. But I was sitting there, and in a group home, I convinced a bunch of other guys. I was like, hey, man, let's go find my mom. My mom will take care of us. So we grabbed the white pages and the yellow pages, and we're looking up every Janice Summers in Colorado. And they gave us a bus ticket. So for like 6-7 months, I was just going to random people's houses. And you know that book, Are You My Mom? The Little Ugly Duckling? That's how I felt. I would sit there and I would wait till they showed up. And then all these random people were like, no, son, I'm not yours. You're not mine. And I almost convinced this one lady that I was hers. I was like, I have two baby brothers just like you. And she was all spun out. She's like, you could be mine.
Wow.
Yeah, so I lived a hectic.
Yeah, you're thinking that your mom's going to take care of everybody in the house.
Yep.
Take them with
and
you.
So, yep. And I'd get like little clicks over here. And I really got into ICP because all these kids were foster kids that listened to ICP in the 90s and 2000s. So we're all looking for a home. And ICP just brought it along. Nowadays, I'm like, what the is going on with these guys? No, you don't even know.
Now it's huge. It's like almost segregated as a gang in some states, right?
Yeah. So out in Colorado, like all the street kids were either Juggalos or Eminem fans, and we actually beat the living shit out of each other. You'd find out he was an Eminem fan. We were beating the living dog shit out of you, right? And all these foster kids, when you hit 18, they just dump you. At 18 years old, that's the reason why I left Colorado. 18 years old, all my friends from group homes and all that, we all lived on 16th Street Mall, all homeless. So we had our own little clique going on. We actually ended up moving to Nebraska, and that was probably the worst thing for Nebraska because we all joined the carny. So we traveled around that year, and we landed in Nebraska, and that's where we stayed. 13 of us, and we tore that town to. They ended up getting their own gang task force. Like every other day, one of us was going into jail for assault. You get a bunch of Colorado kids and you just drop them in a random town, it's over.
Some Bible Belt town, right?
It's completely over. Definitely the ones like I was at my cousin's birthday party, and he was a Crip. We're sitting there, and his cousin, I don't know what was in his head, but he was wearing a red hat. He bought his cousin a shotgun, and it wasn't in the box; it was hanging out. And he knocks on the door, and my cousin, he stands up, walks over there, sees a red hat through the peephole, opens it up, pulls his gun underneath his own cousin's jaw, bam, shot him, killed him, closed the door like it was nothing. He's like, cops will be here in about 10 minutes. And so we're drinking, just kicking it. And I was about 16, I was 17 because I just got out. I'm drinking, and all of a sudden cops are knocking at the door, and he walks out. He's like, yeah, fucking slob. And he spits on him, right?
Wow.
Well, his mom comes running down there, and they removed the hat. He killed his own cousin. They tore that family all apart over a hat.
Was that in Colorado?
Yep, that was in Colorado.
A lot of gang stuff out there in Colorado, huh?
Yeah, gangs. So I blame it really on Tupac, a bunch of white people, and Biggie. A bunch of white people want to be gang members, and they running with black sets. You know, you mix those cultures together, everybody's trying to impress somebody. Either this guy's trying to impress this guy, or this guy's trying to impress something. And it like tore down all the organizations. A lot of people don't know that organizations were all built to protect their own. If you really look at it, they're like, nah, f that. We're tired of these guys moving in. We're going to protect our own. Like the Black Panthers, we'll police our own people. The government just makes it worse. Makes it worse. I absolutely hate the feds. Growing up, I always wanted to know why the foster care system was built, why this was happening. So I didn't know YouTube gave you like free law classes and shit like that. You could listen to classes. So I'm a welder, and that's all I listen to is law degrees and all these people just preaching to their kids, their students, and I'm listening to it free. I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. Like if you look up, I think it's 100. Yeah, it's 100 Supreme Court rulings that everybody should know to be the case. You'll listen to it, and it all stems off the Jim Crow laws. And
it's
so
crazy.
Jim Crow
trying to take our rights away, basically.
So every time that they give you a right, they're actually taking away freedom. And then like women's rights, I'm glad that they can vote and work, but at the same time, that segregates the house. Everybody now, you got two parents working, two parents paying taxes, and nobody's watching the kids' education. You can see when Safe Child Act came in, that was segregation. So underneath Jim Crow, every Safe Child Act is a segregation to take children away from their parents. Instead of doing it just to one culture, they're doing it to all the cultures now. Sterilization is a big thing with the Jim Crow laws. Most people don't know what the Jim Crow laws as your segregation and sterilization. And those were laws. So if you're mixed, they would sterilize that whole family.
And this was in like the 60s, and right?
Yep.
When people were fighting for their rights and all this.
So that was the 60s. And 75, that's when the law was gone, the Jim Crow laws. In 75, that's when the Safe Child Act happened. In 79, the federal government was bankrupt. 81 was the biggest roundup of foster kids. 86 trumped that, and then it started to die off in the 90s. So that was the Jim Crow laws being switched into another law, and it was Safe Child Act. If you actually look up Safe Child Act, it's all federal. Everything's federal.
What is the Safe Child Act? What is that?
So let's say they pass a code where you can't smoke in a car, which they have. That's Child Endangerment Act. So Safe Child Act is that anybody can actually literally pick that child up and wait till law enforcement and CPS does an investigation. And that's your Safe Child Act.
Gives people the right to try to protect a child.
Yep. And at the same time, it actually endangers a family and hurts the family. Like I see all this CPS, how to knock CPS out of your life. If they want in, they're going to come in. And that's a fact. Like, and the reason why that they pulled sheriffs, you'll see a lot of them with the sheriffs, is because the sheriff is the elective personnel. So they're actually for the rights of the people. Police, if you backdate police, that goes all the way to slave patrol. That's how they were founded. And that's the reason why that they only follow policy and codes. They don't follow law. And this Chevron Deference Act, you're seeing a lot of it. A lot of people will call the police station, hey, I need this done. Well, we can't do that because that's a code violation. You need to call the sheriff department. Like shooting off fireworks. Police can't arrest you now because of it. Going out fishing, anybody go out fish right now.
Someone's mad at someone, right? All they got to do is call up, say, oh, their kid's in danger, blah, blah, blah. And they'll come and investigate it. They'll go inside your home, and you have the rights, basically.
Yep. Anybody can call the law on anybody over a child. And see, sheriffs have to act on that. Even there's some things like if it is a family code, welfare check. If it's a welfare check, it's by the police. And that's actually underneath child safety and elderly safety. So say a teacher smells cigarette smoke on a child. And I've actually seen this done a lot. The teacher will call a welfare check, but they'll call CPS. CPS will bring out a sheriff. They'll go through it. But if it's emergency, they'll call the police station. Police station will come out and do a welfare check.
Bruises, right? Have you seen this a lot where kids getting abused and they got bruises and they bring the police in to investigate it?
Yep. And so back in the 90s and early 2000s, bruises on kids were a common thing. So they wouldn't believe the child. So they changed some laws where it's automatically they believe the child. And that's because, a lot of children were getting hurt in foster homes and they couldn't figure it out. Oh, well, this parent, it was too late. So they weren't doing proper investigations.
People who run the foster home, have you ever seen them abuse the kids?
Oh, yeah. So I actually have a red mark on my eye. That was a bullwhip that came across my neck and smacked me in the eye.